and reports and meetings. Important as these things are in their way, they are not important ultimately because they're not ends in themselves. They're means to an end. And that end is life. And that we here have not only life, that we have it more abundantly. And this hour is to call us back to that promise of abundance. And I ask always your help in serving that end. Therefore, may these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be found true in thy sight, thou who art my rock and my Redeemer. A word from Fran Lebowitz before we get started, because the saccharin is already pretty steep. All the flowers and all the sentimentality. So a little word from Fran Lebowitz, who is not herself, as I recall, a biological mother. So she brings a different perspective. She writes, "Your responsibility as a parent is not as great as you might imagine. You need not supply the world with the next conqueror of disease or major motion picture star. If your child simply grows up to be someone who does not use the word collectible as a noun, you can consider yourself an unqualified success." So I'm letting you all off the hook, and me too. It is Mother's Day, and I could start any number of places, sentimental and appreciative, and they'd be worthwhile, but I could also go the Fran Lebowitz route and go down and start by noting that any president who affirms gay marriage the week before Mother's Day is saying it's okay for gay mommies to have a good day, and that's a good thing, and we have a few, and I want to say hey to Ann and Paula and all my other gay mommies who are out there. We are so proud of you. It's about time we made it official, don't you think? Or I could, in the other sense, go and talk to you a little bit about Marissa Alexander. She's a mother in Florida whose estranged and abusive husband threatened her, and so she fired a gun to scare him off, and so she was the one who was tried and convicted of attempted murder and is going to jail for 20 years while her abusive husband is at home. And we should ask ourselves, why do we live in a world in which a woman who defends herself cannot stand her ground, but a man can gun down a black boy and is somehow in danger? I guess that's because women really are the stronger sex after all. I'm going to choose, though, a more modest beginning because those are just too inviting, and CNN has covered all that waterfront. So last month I'm talking to Wright McCarger. That's Edie's son, one of several, by the way, so I can't keep them all straight. But Wright helps us out in the early worship service. He's the piano player. You know that, Wright McCarger. And he shows me the text, the sheet music for that song we just heard, God Bless the Child. And if you look carefully, at the top of your order of worship, bless has an apostrophe in front after it, whereas in the song title that you saw, it didn't have an apostrophe, and there's a debate about this. Was the song written with or without the apostrophe, meaning it should have said, God bless the child, or God blesses the child in a contracted way? And you know, when I see something like that, a little apostrophe that is there and then isn't, it makes me crazy. I want to know what's going on. And so I did a little research and discovered it doesn't matter. Grammatically, it all comes down to the same thing. God blesses the child, or may God bless the child that's got his own. Yeah, the rich kids, they need all the help they can get because it is an ironic song. In either case, makes me wonder about kids and about poverty, about how hard it is for kids and how hard it is for grown-ups. Even if mama and papa may have, doesn't mean that the child's going to get his or her own. Yeah, we're told today we should be honoring mothers, and it's good that we do that because we have spent all year throughout our worship year reading words from women, affirmations and quotes. We have brought women into our pulpit. Ruth is one of them, but 3 other wonderful exponents from 4 separate religious traditions. If you weren't here, you should have heard Nicholas Kristof talk about the plight of women in Africa and Asia. If you weren't here, you should have heard Naomi Wolf in this space talking about the struggles of women in a world saturated with commercialized beauty. We've had a lot of talk about women this year, and so Mother's Day is a good time to wrap that up. But I'm not going to talk about women, I'm going to talk about children, because as I said in the prayer, mothers may appreciate the attention you pay to them, but their attention is focused on their children. And I do that because children are not always in the place they ought to be. For example, as I discovered, 2 out of 5 children of African ancestry in this country are in poverty. 1 out of every 3 children who happen to be Hispanic are in poverty. Why are we letting that happen? I don't know, but it's a fact. Last week I talked about blessing. And so how are we going to bless these children? Because I want to ask, what would it mean if we really, really blessed children? Not just put our hands on them and say, may you be as Ephraim and Manasseh. Not just go and say, God bless your little heart. Not in passing, not in handing out a candy cane or an Easter egg or even a toy. How would we really be if we blessed children, if we were awestruck by them, which is what blessing really means. Remember, blessing means that you are impressed. You're giving honor to something that was majestic. I'm saying this because, in part, the U.S. House of Representatives has demonstrated a good example of how not to bless children, because it's going to balance the budget by cutting Head Start and children's health insurance so that it can make sure that the military has $8 billion more than it already has. But we have to reduce the debt, you know. The debt must be reduced. And to my knowledge, no child I know votes, has a job, buys an ad on TV, or pays enough taxes for anyone in Washington to care about. But we do, in fact, do it for the children. What they mean, though, is some other person's children, not yours. If I'm sardonic, I apologize. But it's hard for me to bless children today when I know the country isn't blessing children. Even God doesn't seem to want to bless anyone but the best children. And in fact, that's what it's all about, isn't it? May God bless the good children, the rich ones, the whiter ones, the nice ones. And I could go on for some time, and I could rant about our myopic zeal that seems to be eager to protect children from abortion and sexual predators, but doesn't seem to care what they eat for lunch or in what neighborhoods they live. I could go on for some time about that, but it's Mother's Day, and you need a nicer day than that. And I'm trusting you as mothers are already irate enough without me to tell you to do that. But I'm going to talk about 2 things every child needs that doesn't cost a penny in taxes, that doesn't require a single vote of any legislator. Thank you, Jesus. Things that each one of us can give, whether we're a mother or not. These are the things you can take from this sermon. Rant over. Hope begins. The first thing you can give every child that will really bless them, that will give them what they need, is songs. I don't mean music, as beautiful as that is, not the stuff on the page and the elegance. I'm talking about songs, the poems we sing. You know, song is the way we store information as a child. We don't remember stuff because we look it up. We remember because we sing it. Just try to pronounce the alphabet and not hear Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Can't do it, can you? It's the song that carries the information. Ever figure out that Baa Baa Black Sheep taught you how to count? Or that Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, or Ring Around the Rosie are ways you make moral decisions? Which one shall I pick? That Old MacDonald teaches zoology? And this is the one that'll knock you down. Row, row, row your boat is the most theological song there is. Just follow it to the very end. Life is but a dream. Work songs, street songs, play songs, school songs. That's how we learn about the world, how we live in the world. We sang a song here a few years ago for a little while, Eyes on the Prize, beautiful, spiritual, used during the civil rights movement. There was a woman who came up to me a few months afterward and said, I had to push someone in a wheelchair through the airport, and it was hard, and I just kept singing to myself, keep your eyes on that. Now, it's not what the song intended, but it did what the song intended, which was to give strength. Songs lift us, carry us, inform us. We learn, starting with the first time we lean up against our mother and we can hear her sing through the skin of our cheek. And she sings, hush, little baby. And we do. The songs our mothers sing not only lull us to sleep, they feed us with a sense of belonging to the world in a way that we can know the world and we can go out into it because we can sing the songs and carry the information. We need to give songs to children because I can tell you right now, the songs you will know forever are the ones you learned when you were 5 or less. That's a beautiful piece that we just heard. You're not going to sing it when you're running around the track. You're not going to sing it when you're in the traffic jam. You're going to find that song from deep inside that kept you going. We have to give our children songs so they can be connected to themselves and others, to communicate our culture to them, to negotiate a deaf world. Yeah, we need to give our children songs. And the other thing we can give them is stories. Yeah, I mean the Mother Goose stuff and the fairy tales, but even more important, the stories about us and our families that our mothers and fathers tell us. Didn't your mother and your father, your grandmother and your grandmother tell you about when your mother was a child or when I was a kid? How else are you going to learn that except that your parents teach you that? And so we need the stories to find out who we are. The songs tell us about the world, but the stories tell us about us. What I know about my infancy and childhood, I got from my mother and father, telling me the parts that I forgot or couldn't remember. Thanks to my mom, who has been gone now for 8 years almost, I remember the names of the doctors who attended my birth and gave me my vaccinations. They're all dead now except me, but I keep them because I was told the story. Thanks to Mom and Dad, I know about their childhoods, how she was born in Louisville, Kentucky, how she was hurt in a farming accident in Hyattsville, Maryland, how my father's mother died in childbirth. I learned my family and who I am from the stories they told them. Thanks to them, I know who I am. Columnist Timothy Egan, writing in the New York Times this week, reflecting on the death of his mother, noted that mothers are, quote, the true keeper of your memories, your triumphs, your losses. Your mother is the scrapbook for all your enthusiasms. My eldest son had a birthday this week, and yes, it does fall on Mother's Day from time to time. We don't like that because we want him to have his own birthday, not a day complicated with a holiday. But it happened on the same day of the week he was born, which is always great fun. And in our bedroom upstairs, as I'm putzing with my clean clothes, there this week, already thinking about my son who is now 28, are lots of childhood photos of him and his brother, and him before we had his brother. This week I couldn't look at them without getting all misty and remembering the little boy who was 3 and 4 and 5, and remembering that he was a part of our lives then in a way we'll never have again. That's what makes you cry, because they only get to be 3 once, and you really want them to do it for 2 or 3 years so you can really get it. And I ask myself, does he know the name of the doctor who attended his birth?